for posterity. Right? So that means in like 300 years, there'll be scholars studying old presidents and the White House, and they'll be like, what was it like 300 years ago? You're like, I don't know, but the Grammys host was terrible. Yes, a total loser, apparently. And a bunny was performing at the Super Bowl. Also terrible. Absolutely terrible. What a time. You know, the weird thing about living through history is it's so much less predictable when you are the one doing it. Like, when you read history or when we're taught history, it is often presented as if it was inevitable. You read the stories, you assume that is how they would have always ended because that's how they ended. Like, if I asked most people, do you think the Nazis will always lose the war? They'd be like, yeah, of course the Nazis would always lose the war. And yet at the time, the people who were fighting the war thought that the Nazis were going to win. There was a moment when it seemed like it was in their favor. When you're in history, it's a completely different gambit. Like, whenever I'm in Washington, D.C., I like to go and visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And if you've never been, let me tell you, it is one of the most profound experiences you will ever have in your life. It is a museum unlike any other I've ever been to, for a few reasons. You know, one is it is as complete a telling as is possible. And then people started posting, and then someone jumped in the comments and was like, really? Throwing a party at a time like this? Read the room, look around you. Is now the time to be celebrating? This is not the time to throw parties when we're at it. And it was this whole thing, and then it devolved into a huge fight. And I'll be honest with you, I could actually see where both people were coming from. Emotionally, I got it. On the one hand, someone was saying, how can you throw a celebration at a time when it feels like the world as we know it has fallen apart? How can you be joyous when it looks like every norm and institution we have understood that makes up the fabric of society is falling apart? Our public trust is falling apart. Our trust in each other is full. How can you throw a party? But the other person was saying, how can I not? I have lived and worked my entire life to get to this place. I have finally achieved it against all odds. And so for this moment, I wish to enjoy. And both are right. Right? Both are right. In every hospital around the world, there's a ward where a baby has just been born and another where somebody has just died. Jubilation at the start of a new life. Despair at the loss of someone you've always loved. Neither ward incorrect. But then which one do you focus on? I got an answer for myself in one of the most random places. I was reading a book. There was accounts from soldiers who served during World War I. And they're talking to veterans who had been there at the time. And this book goes through their experiences. And a lot of them talk about the trench warfare, which was some of the worst warfare man has ever invented. Right? When it went on for years and years and years, and these soldiers would cycle in and cycle out. Every day could have been their last. And in the midst of all of this despair, there's one common thread that you see with every single soldier that they speak to, almost every single one. And that is that they found their joy in the trenches. They have these moments where they host card games, and they play around. They had a satirical newspaper that they started. And they'd make jokes about their commanding officers and what was happening in the war and each other. And one of the wildest things I read was there was a day when a cow walked into the battlefield. So it was in no man's land. It was perfectly between the Allies and the Axis. And it was like both sides wanted the cow. And then they shouted across to the Germans and they said, we want the cow. And then the Germans were like, no, we want the cow. And then they agreed. They said, okay, let's play a game. We'll throw up coins in the air and we'll try shoot them. Whoever hits the coin gets to keep the cow. And then the English soldiers shot the coin. And then the Germans were like, okay, you win the cow, but we'd like our coins back. And then the English soldier went, got the coins, was like, oh, they're going to kill me. And then got the coins, and then gave them to the Germans, and then ran back and got in the trenches. And then everyone was like, fun game. It's littered with stories. There were stories of soldiers singing to each other on evenings, randomly. They would sing across enemy lines at the other soldiers, and the other soldiers would sing back. Can you imagine that? You're in a trench. Your feet are rotting. Everyone's tired, scared. In the midst of that, all of a sudden, someone's just like, say you. They found their joy in the trenches. And it hit me because it made me realize they remembered what they were fighting for. They were fighting to live. They weren't fighting to fight. If you forget what you're fighting for, then there's no point in fighting. You're fighting to be joyous. You're fighting to explore yourself. You're fighting to have adventures. You're fighting to laugh. You're fighting. You don't just fight to fight. You're fighting to live. Just because the big is happening doesn't mean that the small stops. My therapist told me that I am undateable. Yeah. In a session, and inability to be in a long-term relationship, and I was trying to understand why, and we're delving into it, and she said, I think it's because you are undateable. And then she broke it down for me. She said, there are a few reasons. I think you work too much. I know you love your work, but you work too much, and that doesn't create a good balance in your life. She said, also, you travel too much, and being in the same place is crucial for building a solid relationship. But I'll be honest with you, those things are really just the side dish. Right? The main course and the real issue I have is, as my therapist put it, I have an inability to not say what is in my head. And she taught me that one of the keys to a long, successful relationship is knowing when to think and when to speak. Yeah. And I was like, I don't have that problem. I'm a good communicator. She's like, no, Trevor, you oftentimes, you have thoughts and you immediately say them. You just have the thought and it comes out your mouth. And Trump was like, tell him, girl. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I have that as a problem. I think it's probably something. She's like, no, I've got notes. Hold on, I've got some notes. And she pulled out the notes and she's like, let's go through some examples. And there was one example that really, she was right. It happened with an ex-girlfriend of mine. It was the fracture that led to the end of the relationship, really. It wasn't the moment, but that fracture caused the outcome. We were getting ready for bed. It was an innocuous night, brushing our teeth, getting into the covers. And then before we turned off the lights, we started talking to each other, and we got really cozy. You know those moments where you're with the person you love, and you just find yourself in a rabbit hole of stories you've never told and feelings you've never shared, and you're laughing, and you can feel you're falling more in love. And we're lying there on the pillows, looking at each other, and she's there staring at me. And all of a sudden, she's like, hey, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. Yeah, of course. She's like, if you could change one thing about me, what would you change? Now, I have since learned that there is a correct answer to this question. And yes, one correct answer. Regardless of how unique your relationship is, if you want to win this game show question, the answer you give, if she says to you, if there's a woman in your life and she says, if there's one thing you could change about me, what would you change? The correct answer is nothing. Aha. Yes, I wish you were all there with me that night. Yes. Correct answer is nothing. You say, nothing, babe. I would change nothing about you because everything you are makes you perfect for me. If anything, can I be honest? I would change myself. I would change myself so that I would be better able to receive the love that you so freely give. That is what I would change. That's the unabridged answer, should you wish to use it. Yeah. That is not the answer I gave. Nope, I said what was in my head. She looked at me, she said, if you could change one thing about me, what would you change? And I was like, oh, one thing. Ooh, one thing. Oh, one thing. Wow, that's a tough one. One thing. Only one. I went, oh, okay, let me think. Hold on, let me think. If it was only one thing, what would I change? Okay, I think I got it. If I could change only one thing about you, I would change how you communicate during sex. And she was like, what? Yeah, and then it snowballed. I know I was wrong, so please don't judge me. I know I was wrong, and I'm working on it. I'll explain to you what was going through my head, all right? What happened that night is, first of all, I thought it was a real question, okay? Secondly, I was trying to express a feeling that I had. And that feeling was a confusion that I would often have, and sometimes a frustration when my girlfriend and I would be getting intimate, right? We'd be in an intimate setting, and she would say, and I'm not trying to be lewd or anything, right? She would be like, oh, I'm gonna come, right? Which, by the way, ladies, is the greatest phrase you can ever say to a man. Like, ever. There is nothing a man wants to hear more in his life than that sentence. You say that sentence, we have reached the pinnacle of manhood. We have achieved. We have arrived. Yes, you say that and we're like, me, Tarzan. It's done. It's done. And it is so powerful on us ladies that we will reach a level of our masculinity that we didn't even know we possessed. Yeah, you say that to us and we'll become stronger. We will overcome things that we couldn't. Our fatigue goes out the window. Yeah, we forget about that cramp. We, like, any situation, like sometimes we can't breathe, you know? Sometimes we can't breathe. Sometimes our nose is blocked, and what we're doing at that time is we're moving from breath to breath, right? So we're doing our thing, and then when we run out of air, we like a whale breaching, we'll pop up, and then we'll dive back into the depths of your pleasure, right? And this is fine. It's a rhythm that every man has figured out for themselves, right? But ladies, understand, we are going from breath to breath. And when you say, I'm going to come, we then go, this is not the time to breathe. This is my calling. I have but one breath and I shall use it well. And so we hold it and we keep going. We keep going, and we try to get you there. Now, the thing I didn't know at the time was when my ex would say the phrase, I'm going to come, what she actually meant was, the action you're performing on me is quite pleasurable, and I would like you to continue. Please continue exactly what you are doing right now, at the same cadence and preferably same pressure. Don't get excited because I said that phrase. Don't switch things up. Just do exactly what you're doing now, because you're on the right track. You got this, champ. Keep going. Before you were all over the place, but this is it. If you do this, there's a good chance that I am going to reach my climax. So you keep going, buddy. You got this. I believe in you. You're getting warmer. That's what she meant. Because you're saying this thing, I'm going to come, and I understand now, like fellas, when women say like, I'm going to come, in many ways they're saying it the same way a person at a bus stop would say, the bus is going to come, right? They mean you are at the correct location for a bus to coincide with yourself. This is where the bus will come to. But the when is the issue. The when is where we're not connecting. Because ladies, men, we are quite literal about this. You see, when women are saying it, it's